She almost walked out of the wedding alone until he revealed, "Our fate just might be incredible." Jenny stood at the threshold of the chapel, her heart pounding like a drum. The air was thick with the scent of white flowers and the soft glow of twinkling fairy lights danced around her, creating an almost magical ambience. But despite the beauty surrounding her, a storm brewed inside. She could almost hear her family's disapproving whispers, echoing in her mind. Mark, her charming fiancé, had swept her off her feet. Yet, the weight of her wealthy family's judgment bore down on her shoulders. They made it clear, Mark, a self-made entrepreneur from humble beginnings, wasn't he the man they envisioned for her? As the guests waited dressed in their Sunday best with smiles stretched wide, her heart ached with conflicting emotions. From where she stood, the murmurs of her aunt and mother drifted her way, cutting deep like jagged glass. "He's unworthy," they said. "How can she love someone who doesn't come from money?" Their doubts twisted in her stomach, making her second-guess the love that felt so right. The vision of fleeing the chapel flitted through her mind like a desperate bird. But just then, her eyes locked onto Mark, who stepped into view with an aura of calmness that steadied her racing heart. His eyes were earnest, filled with a passion that had always captivated her, even when doubts clouded her mind. He leaned closer, his voice a soft whisper, "Don't you dare lose sight of our dreams, Jenny. Remember the battles I've faced not just on the front lines as a veteran, but against society's prejudice. I've fought for a future where our love can thrive." His words struck her, igniting a flicker of hope deep within her soul. "Our fate just might be incredible," he added, that glimmer of belief seeping through the tension like sunlight breaking the dawn. The reassurance washed over her. Those battles weren't just his, they were theirs. Before they could linger in that moment, the officiant's voice echoed in the hushed chapel, signaling the start of the ceremony. Jenny felt the air shift, like a gust before the storm. Old family secrets whispered beneath the surface, each one questioning the very bonds of love she was about to seal. As she scanned the faces of her family, she saw both pride and disdain, tangled emotions that swirled like a whirlpool of uncertainty. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The officiant moved to pronounce them husband and wife, but just then, an unexpected revelation about Mark's character surfaced, creating a tense silence that blanketed the chapel. The congregation seemed to collectively hold its breath. Jenny felt a rush of emotions flood her heart, a mix of anticipation and fear. Here she stood on the precipice of tradition and personal ambition, caught between her family's legacy and the love of her life. Would she walk down the aisle, or choose to carve her own path into the uncertain? With the storm of doubt swirling, the answer hung in the air, electric and palpable, and the weight of the moment felt heavier than ever before. As the officiant cleared his throat, a soft murmur spread through the crowd, punctuated by gasps and exchanged glances. It was like a ripple of tension echoing off the chapel walls. "I must inform everyone present that there are significant revelations regarding Mark's past." The officiant's eyes flickered towards Mark, who remained poised, despite the unease creeping into the air. Jenny's heart dropped. What could he possibly mean by that? She had known Mark as a devoted lover, a loyal friend, a fierce warrior who never shied away from adversity. But as she stared into his eyes, searching for answers, she felt as if she were on a precipice, teetering on the edge of an abyss. Suddenly, a voice broke through her reverie, her mother's, sharp and disapproving. "You see, Jenny. This is what I meant. He cannot even keep his past hidden." The words cut through her like a knife, a wave of shame crashing over her, but Jenny refused to let it drown her. Mark turned to her, his gaze steady and determined. "Jenny," he said softly, "let me explain." He stepped forward, his voice strong yet soothing, commanding attention. "I may not come from wealth, but I've built my life on hard work and authenticity. Yes, I made mistakes when I was younger. I struggled to find my path, and some mistakes were regrettable. But what matters now is who I choose to be and the life we can create together." Jenny could feel the breath of the chapel collectively held in silence, their fates intertwined in that fragile moment. Mark's words enveloped her, pushing back the doubts festering in her mind. She was struck by an all-consuming realization his past was not what defined him any more than her family's wealth defined her. "What did you do?" someone called from the back. The accusatory tone sent shivers down Jenny's spine, and she braced herself for the backlash. Mark took a deep breath, a resolved look on his face. "I made mistakes, yes. I hurt people in my youth. I was reckless, lost. But over the years, I've learned from those mistakes, dedicated myself to helping others who faced similar struggles. Each choice has shaped me into the man I am standing before you today." A murmur fluttered through the guests, a mix of disbelief and curiosity. The tension in the air charged like electricity. It was terrifying yet liberating to witness him owning his truth. Jenny felt a surge of pride swell within her. If he could face his demons with such bravery, then maybe she could too. As the murmurs grew louder, she took a step forward, breaking away from the uncertain shadows of familial expectations. "He deserves a chance, just like any of us do. Everyone has a past, but it's what we do moving forward that matters," she declared, her voice steady and fierce. The room quieted again, her words hanging in the air like the last notes of a haunting melody. She could see the surprise on her mother's face, the mixture of pride and confusion overwhelming her. Jenny felt something shift inside herself, her own courage rising, a small but potent flame igniting. The officiant, seeming to pick up on the newfound strength around them, nodded slowly. "Well then, shall we proceed?" Jenny's heart raced. She caught Mark's eye again, and he smiled, a blazing beacon of hope. The love between them pulsed vividly, overshadowing the weight of judgment from the outside world. The storm was still brewing, but now, they stood together to face it. Would they find a way to stand tall against the winds of adversity? As the officiant prepared to lead them into the next part of the ceremony, Jenny took a breath, filled with determination. Their battle was just beginning, but each step they took together would be another victory. "Jenny," Mark whispered as the officiant began, "whatever happens next, I'm yours." The warmth from his words wrapped around her like a promise, an anchor amidst the turmoil. Just as the officiant's voice began to weave their fates together in sacred union, the doors at the back of the chapel swung open with sudden force. A figure stood silhouetted against the light, a look of urgency in their eyes. What secrets did they carry, and how would they alter the course of this moment? Jenny's heart raced anew, a new tension coiling in the air as the crowd turned, eyes widened in anticipation. The figure at the door stepped forward, revealing a man with wild hair and a look of sheer desperation. He pushed through the crowd, sending anxious glances towards the wedding party. As he approached the altar, Jenny could feel the shock rippling through the congregation, a gasping wave of disbelief. "Mark!" The man called, his voice trembling with urgency, "You have to listen to me." Mark's expression shifted, from pride to confusion. "What are you doing here, Ben?" There was a mix of frustration and concern in Mark's question. Jenny could see that whatever was about to unfold was heavier than the air thickening around them. "You can't go through with this," Ben insisted, his eyes darting nervously around, as if even the walls of the chapel could betray him. "Not until you hear what I have to say about your past. It's about the things you've tried so hard to bury." The crowd held its breath again, the air crackling with tension. Jenny felt the world around her fade for a moment, her heart pounding loudly against her ribcage. She glanced over at Mark, who stood frozen, his face a mix of disbelief and dread. "What do you mean?" Mark replied, his voice steady but filled with tension. "Remember the deal we made?" Ben pressed on, desperation sharpening his voice. "They're back. The people you thought put all that behind you, they're coming for you. They know you're here today." An unsettling wave of murmurs washed over the crowd, and Jenny felt her stomach drop. It was as if a chasm had suddenly opened beneath her feet. She took a step toward Mark, but the urgency of Ben's words rooted her in place. "Let them come," Mark declared, his voice stronger now, bravado rising in the face of alarm. "I'm not that person anymore. My past is not who I am now." "Maybe not," Ben retorted. "But they won't see it that way. You think you can just walk away? These people don't forget. They'll come for you, right here, right now." Jenny's breath quickened. This wasn't the fairy tale wedding she had envisioned. "Mark," she whispered, a tinge of fear coloring her words, "what if he's right?" He turned to her, their eyes locking. "I'm not afraid. I won't let my past dictate my future." But Jenny felt the cold grip of reality tightening around them. "What if they hurt you?" Mark gently squeezed her hand. "Together, we can face anything." Ben looked from Mark to Jenny, uncertainty flashing in his eyes. "I'm not saying you can't. I'm saying you should be prepared for what has to come." The officiant, caught in the whirlwind of emotions, stammered. Perhaps we should take a moment," but Mark shook his head, cutting through the tension. "No." His voice rang out with a firm clarity. "If they want me, let them come. I refuse to hide from my past. I won't miss this moment, Jenny." The room quivered with electricity, the crowd torn between fear and awe. Jenny's heart raced. It was a declaration both brave and reckless. She could see it now, Mark, a warrior not just of battles but of his own choices, standing tall despite the storm gathering around him. But as the hushed voices of the chapel returned to hushed whispers, one thing became clear to Jenny: this was more than a wedding. It was a fight for their future. "What happens now?" Jenny asked, her voice barely a whisper. Mark smiled, a spark of resolve igniting his eyes. "Now we stand our ground. Whatever they try to throw at us, we hold tight to each other." But in that moment, the chapel doors creaked open again, revealing another figure stepping inside. A glimmer of recognition swept through the crowd. How many more were there to confront the past? Jenny felt the earth shift beneath her feet. Would they be ready for the truth that was coming? The newcomers stepped into the chapel, the fading light behind them casting long shadows across the floor. The silence was deafening, broken only by the soft gasps of those witnessing the unexpected arrival. Jenny squinted, her heart racing as she tried to discern the face behind that piercing gaze. "Is that?" Mark's voice trailed off, a shadow flickering across his features. It was as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. The figure moved forward, the low mutters of the crowd intensifying into a chorus of whispers. Mark's jaw clenched, he looked torn between fear and determination. Jenny could feel the weight of their past pressing down upon them, heavy and unyielding. "Mark," the newcomer said, their voice steady, but edged with caution. "You don't remember me, but I remember you well. We were all part of something you can't just walk away from." There was a collective intake of breath. Jenny glanced around, searching for reassurance in the flickering eyes of their friends and family. She could sense the growing tension, a palpable fear threading through the room. "Who are you?" Mark demanded, his voice strong, yet trembling with suppressed emotion. "I'm Alex," the figure replied, meeting Mark's gaze. "And it's time we talk about the debts you've left unpaid. They're closer than you think." Jenny caught Mark's flinch at the words debts. She felt a cold chill race down her spine, as if the very foundation of their wedding was crumbling beneath the weight of those unspoken words. This wasn't the life they'd built. The promise of love and hope seemed to flicker in the face of the past come to haunt them. "What do you mean?" Mark asked, his voice tense. "What debts?" "The ones with people who don't forgive easily," Alex replied, their voice almost a whisper. "They know you're here. They want a reckoning." Ben's expression shifted, as if remembering every dark moment of their shared past. Jenny's heart sank further. She sensed the danger curling around Mark like smoke from a fire, threatening to consume him, to tear their life apart. "Enough." Mark's roar shattered the tension. He stepped forward, the vulnerable look in his eyes replaced with fierce determination. I'm done running. If they want to confront me, then let them. But Mark, think about Jenny. Ben interjected, his concern flashing in his eyes. You're putting her in danger too. The room seemed to grow even quieter, the weight of that realization hanging heavy in the air. Mark turned back to Jenny, his face softening. Jenny, I won't let anything happen to you. You're my everything. Tears welled in her eyes, a mix of love and fear overwhelming her. But what if this isn't just about you anymore? What if they come for both of us? She whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. We face it together, he promised, desperation mingled with resolve. We'll fight for this love, for our future. Jenny's heart swelled with pride at his bravery, but fear laced every thought. As she searched his eyes for strength, she caught a glimpse of Alex out of the corner of her vision, standing as a reminder of the storm brewing just outside their little world. Are you really willing to sacrifice everything for your past? Alex pressed, challenging Mark's resolve. To protect a future that may crumble at the slightest tremor? Before Mark could respond, the air in the chapel shifted, as if heralding the arrival of fate. The tension was building, an insistent murmur echoing throughout the space. Would they be able to withstand the truth that was coming? In that moment, all Jenny could do was hold her breath, feeling the storm of the past gathering strength. What awaited them on the other side of these truths was still unknown, a looming shadow ready to shatter the fragile peace they fought so hard to build. Would they have the strength to face it, or would their love be swept away in the tidal wave of Mark's unresolved past? The air in the chapel felt electric, charged with emotions left unspoken. Mark stood tall, his resolve radiating like heat from a flame, even as disquiet filled his eyes. Jenny's grip tightened around the bouquet, the rose's thorns biting into her pale skin, grounding her tether to the moment as anxiety twisted in her stomach. What do you want from me? Mark's voice came out low and steady, but Jenny sensed the cracks beneath that calm exterior. She felt every heartbeat reverberate through the silence, echoing the unasked questions that hung between them. Alex took a breath, their sincerity as raw and jagged as the memories that stirred in the depths of Mark's past. You think you can just marry her and put this life behind you? There are people who will come for you, Mark. People who don't care about the life you've built here. Each word felt like a stone thrown into a still pond, rippling outward. Jenny's heart raced as she searched Mark's face, urging him to see the reality spiraling around them. Mark, please, she whispered, her voice cracking. We can walk away. We can leave all of this behind. He turned to her, fierce determination flaring in his eyes. I can't do that, Jenny. Not anymore. I want to run. It's time I faced this. For us. A wave of fear washed over her. The place meant to celebrate their love felt more like a cage, boundaries of their past collapsing in on them. She could see people in the crowd shifting uneasily, some bearing worry in their eyes, others curiosity, but all focused on the team of survivors in front of them. What about our future? We were supposed to be starting a family. Living our lives together. The whisper of her hopes faded into the harsh realities of the situation. But what kind of future do we have if I'm haunted by my past? Mark's voice cracked slightly. I can't drag you into this darkness, Jen. You deserve better. That piercing gaze from Alex wavered, softening for a split second. It might not just be about your past, Mark. There are decisions to be made. It could hinge on what happens next. Tension hummed in the air with every second that ticked by, a storm brewing just outside the chapel's doors. The notion that their love, once fortified by plans and dreams, could dissolve under the scrutiny of secrets loomed like a dark cloud. Where are you going with this? Mark challenged, his knuckles widening around the edges of his suit jacket. What would you have me do? Alex stepped closer, lowering their voice. Prepare for the confrontation that's inevitable. Or take what little peace you've built and run. But running means they'll find you eventually. They always do. Jenny's anxiety twisted into anger, resentment against the weight of Mark's past pressing on their new beginning. "Mark, how can you put this on me too?" She took a breath, steel in her gaze, battling against the heartbreak. "This is our moment, maybe a once-in-a-lifetime moment." "Jenny," he pleaded, his voice faltering, grasping for the sweetness of love amid all this turmoil. "You are my reason to fight. But I can't promise you a fairy tale unless I bury this first." The crowd had shifted from quiet murmurs to hushed anticipation, eyes bouncing between them with a mix of sympathy and curiosity. For the first time, Jenny noticed the understanding on Alex's face, as if they'd been through this choice themselves. The chapel door creaked ever so slightly, an omen of what was to come, stirring the secrets that wanted to be unleashed. This wasn't just about Mark anymore, their fate tangled together, teetering on the edge of chaos. "I love you," Mark said suddenly, stepping closer, almost pleading for a glimmer of hope to emerge between them. "But can you trust me?" Trust. The word hung in the air, heavy with implications, and Jenny could feel the weight of it crushing her. Would she be able to believe in them, even when the ground beneath them trembled ominously? As the shadows deepened and whispers grew louder, Jenny held on to those words that might be the lifeline they needed. But the question remained, would their love survive what was coming? And still, the air thickened with unspoken fears, inviting complications that could rewrite everything. The storm was drawing closer, and no one knew just how fierce it would be. Jenny's heart hammered in her chest, drowning out the murmurs around them. The weight of the moment pressed down like a heavy cloak, and the warmth of Mark's gaze was the only source of comfort in the storm of uncertainty. Could she trust him? Could she trust that facing the shadows would lead to the light they both desired? "Mark," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "It's not just you anymore. This is about us, about what we're trying to build together." Anger flared in her, as if the very thorns that pricked her fingers were awakening something deep inside her. "You can't face this alone." Mark's face softened, the determination flickering between the duality of fear and hope. "I don't want to push you away, but you don't know what they are capable of. I can't let them hurt you." The chapel door creaked louder, a nagging reminder that the world outside held unknown dangers. Jenny's stomach churned. Was it wrong to want them to escape, to run away to a place where shadows wouldn't follow? She shook the thought away. "But if you keep this inside, it'll destroy everything." One tear slipped from her eye, betraying the steel in her heart, and she wiped it away angrily. The crowd shifted. Faces she had known for years wore expressions of concern. Friends. Family. The most important people in their lives were moments away from witnessing a love story tearing at the seams. "Maybe," Alex interjected, almost softly, "it's time to face the truth. If you're serious about each other, there is something you both need to know." Mark frowned, confusion clouding his features. "What do you mean?" Jenny felt a rush of apprehension. What truth could possibly bind them or shatter them even further? Alex took a deep breath, carefully choosing their words. "Your past is coming for you, Mark. But so are your allies. You aren't alone in this fight." Jenny's heart skipped a beat. Allies? Did that mean there was hope, someone else who could help them? Who? She asked, her voice shaking with impatience but threaded with curiosity. "Friends from your past," Alex replied slowly. "People you've protected. They've been waiting for the right moment to stand by you, but it's up to you to reach out." Mark's expression shifted from confusion to something fiercely protective. "What about you? Why are you doing this for me? I know what it feels like to be haunted. I can't sit back and watch you be picked apart when you have the chance to finally claim your future." The room buzzed with emotion, whispers flaring like fireflies awakening in the dark. But as hope sparked within Jenny, so did that undercurrent of dread. How could they face dangers they didn't even understand? "Are you sure you want this burden, Mark?" she asked, eyes searching his with urgency. "Wouldn't it be easier to walk away?" Easier, he echoed, his eyes hardening with resolve. But I won T. Not with you at my side. Another tear fell, unbidden, but this time it stung with painful hope. They were standing on the edge of the unknown, together. Whatever may come, I'll stand by you. I will trust you. She held his gaze, every ounce of doubt washing away like the tide retreating from the shore. Just as the tension seemed to break, the chapel door swung open, and the wind howled through the threshold. A figure loomed outside, backlit by the fading light of the day. Mark. You need to come with us. They're here. Everything shifted in that instant. The crowd gasped collectively, tension snapping like a taut string. Would they run? Would they face this apparent threat head-on? The air crackled with the tension of choices made and choices yet to come. Jenny felt a chill run down her spine. The moment of truth had arrived, and everything hinged on the next decision they would make. Mark, she whispered, panic creeping back into her mind. What do we do now? As whispers resumed, intertwining threads of fear and determination, their future teetered on the brink, as uncertain as the storm that loomed outside the chapel walls. Would they be brave enough to face it together, or would they lose everything before they had the chance to truly begin? The figure at the doorway stepped forward, revealing a familiar face twisted into an expression of urgent panic. Sophie, Mark's childhood friend, looked like she had sprinted the entire distance from their old neighborhood. Her hair stuck to her forehead, and her eyes darted around the chapel, searching for signs of the threat she had announced. Mark. We don't have time, she panted, the words spilling out in a rush. David's leading them. He has the others, and they're closer than we thought. If you want a chance to fight back, Mark stepped forward, cutting her off. What exactly do you mean, they're here? The people from your past, she said. The ones you thought would never find you again. But they've tracked you down. We need to gather everyone, to prepare. Jenny, her heart pounding, felt the weight of every person in the room amplify. They were all witnesses, bound to fear. Would she lose Mark when they had only just begun to fight for this life together? Mark, you can still choose to walk away. We can leave this behind, she urged, desperation pulling at her voice. Sophie shook her head vigorously. You don't understand. If he walks away now, they'll come after you too. This is bigger than what we thought. They want to erase everything, and that includes you, Jenny. The room fell silent, each breath caught in throats like stones. Mark's expression darkened, and Jenny caught the flare of his anger. They won't touch her, he stated fiercely, turning to Jenny. I won't let them. But we can't hide forever. The murmurs from the crowd crescendoed, thick with fear and indecision. Voices intertwined, conflicting opinions floated through the air like smoke. Some wanted to flee, while others stubbornly clung to the hope of fighting alongside Mark. Why now? Mark asked Sophie. Why do they show up today of all days? It's a reckoning, Mark. They know you've built a life. They want to tear it apart. She replied, desperation creeping into her tone. Jenny felt herself wavering. They had only just grasped the fragile threads of their future. We can take time to strategize. We don't have to fight right now. Mark shook his head, his jaw tight. No. Running won't help us anymore. I want to confront them with you by my side. A tense silence ensued. The chapel walls suddenly felt too close, too stifling, closing in on them. The laughter and joy that had filled this sacred place, once a sanctuary, now seemed haunting in its absence. Look, I found some of our old friends nearby, Sophie persisted, fiercely practical. If we rally the few who are still with us, we can stand a real chance against David and his crew. But you have to trust me. All of us. Tears of frustration brimmed in Jenny's eyes. But what if we can't? What if fighting only tears us apart? Then we'll fight together and love through it, no matter what, Mark declared, stepping closer, his voice steady and imbued with something fierce and sincere. "Remember the part of us that's been waiting for this?" His words cut through her fear like a beacon. In that moment, her heart stirred with renewed strength. "So we're really going to face them? Just like that?" "Yes," Mark replied, his gaze unwavering. The depth of his commitment struck her like a lightning bolt. The weight of fear didn't fade, but in its place grew an ember of determination, a courage she had longed for. With a nod, Jenny took a deep breath. "Then let us do it." But before they could move, that chilling wind returned, howling outside, echoing a danger that felt almost alive. As they stepped toward the door, both hope and dread intertwining with each step, a violent crash erupted from the entrance. The crowd recoiled as the door staggered under unseen force, and Jenny's breath hitched. "Get back!" Sophie shouted, adrenaline propelling her forward. Chaos erupted, and Jenny clung tightly to Mark. Would they stand their ground, or would everything unravel in that instant? Outside, the shadows stirred, ready to unleash whatever awaited them. Thankful for the support of newfound allies, a spark of defiance ignited in Jenny. Could love persevere? Even in the face of the oncoming storm? Just then, the chapel door burst open, revealing a daunting figure cloaked in darkness, shadow mingling with daylight, and the chilling words echoed through the air, "It's time to choose your fate." The figure at the door loomed large, its dark silhouette swallowing the light. Jenny's heart raced, the fear gripping her chest like a vice. Mark stood his ground, his muscles taut and ready to fight. "What do you want?" he barked, his voice a mix of anger and fear. The shadows shifted, and the figure stepped into the chapel, revealing a face Jenny had never wanted to see again. It was David, Mark's old rival. His eyes gleamed with a predatory satisfaction. "I want what I've always wanted, Mark," David said, a smirk curling his lips. "To remind you how fragile everything you've built really is." Jenny's stomach plunged with dread. She gripped Mark's hand tighter. "We won to let you destroy us," she shouted, her voice surprisingly steady amidst the chaos. David laughed, a cold, ruthless sound that echoed around the chapel. "Oh, but I'm not here to destroy you, I'm here to show you the truth. You think you're happy? That you've made a new life? How naive." Sophie stepped forward, courage blazing in her eyes. "You're just a ghost from the past, David. You don't get to dictate what our future looks like." Mark squeezed Jenny's hand, grounding her. Suddenly, his anger ignited a fire within her, awakening a fierce protectiveness. "You think I'd ever go back to the life you want for me? I'm not that person anymore." Mark shouted, the tremor in his voice betraying the underlying fear. David took a slow, deliberate step closer. "You think your friends will help you? They will abandon you when it gets hard. It's in their nature." Tension crackled, and Jenny's heart ached at David's words. What if it were true? But she looked around the chapel at the faces of their friends, faces that had once filled with joy, now etched with resolve. They were not abandoning Mark. They were with him, standing strong together. "What do you want from us?" Mark asked, his voice low but steady. Jenny could sense his desire to protect everyone, but she knew they had to confront this menace together. "I want to remind you of what you've lost," David sneered. "The power I wielded, that power still has roots in your past. You need to understand that you can't outrun it. It's waiting for you to fail." The shadows behind David seemed to shift, starting to curl like smoke around him, filling the room with an ominous presence. Fear began to seep into Jenny's heart again. "No. We are not afraid of you, and we are not alone," she declared, though her voice wavered slightly. "You think you can control us? We're stronger than you think." David's eyes narrowed, and a sneer twisted his lips. "You have no idea what's coming. When the storm breaks, you'll wish you took the chance to walk away." With those final words, the shadows wrapped tighter around him, darkening the chapel, bringing a chill to the air that made everyone shiver. Before Mark could reply, David's form flickered like a candle about to burn out, and then he vanished completely, leaving them in a heavy silence that buzzed with fear and anticipation. The air was thick with dread, as if waiting for something terrible to unfold. Mark turned to Jenny, his expression fierce but tinged with uncertainty. "We need to gather everyone. We can't let David's words carved out into us. We're going to prove we're stronger." Jenny nodded, heart pounding. "Together, no matter what. But we have to be ready for the storm," he promised. Sophie stepped in, determined. "We'll gather our friends. We'll show him the strength we have, the life we've built. And we won't let anyone tear it apart." But as they rushed to formulate a plan, an eerie gust swept through the chapel, rattling the stained glass. It felt like the doorway was breathing, as if the storm that David had promised was already lurking outside. Mark paused, a frown knitting his brows. "Something tells me this isn't the end, it's just the beginning." Jenny felt the weight of his words against her chest. What kind of storm were they really facing? What other shadows would emerge from their past to challenge them? All she knew was that whatever came next, they had to face it together. But deep inside, doubt began to creep back in. Could they truly vanquish the shadows of their past, or would they fall victim to the darkness that wanted to consume them? In that moment, as they prepared to leave the chapel, she wondered, was there a light still waiting for them amid the shadows? Jenny felt a surge of energy wash over her, fueled by adrenaline and the fear that still clung to her like a wet cloak. Mark was right, they needed to rally their friends, but an unsettling chill lingered in her bones. The chapel felt different now, the walls reverberating with the whispers of doubt David had sown. "Let us go," Mark urged, his voice steady but strained. He took a deep breath, his brow furrowed with determination, and led them out into the cool evening air. Outside, the world seemed untouched, bathed in the fading glow of sunset. But Jenny couldn't shake the feeling that something unseen hovered just beyond the horizon. They gathered with their friends behind the chapel, faces illuminated by the last rays of light. There was Sophie, Jake, and Mia, each one wearing expressions of fierce solidarity. Mark wasted no time. "We need to talk about what just happened. David won't stop coming for us. We can't be weak." Sophie stepped forward. "We're not weak. We've fought through so much already. We can do this." Mia nodded, her voice small yet filled with conviction. "But how do we protect ourselves from David? He knows us, and he knows how to hurt us." Mark looked out at the group, his heart filled with a mix of pride and fear. "We stand together. We need to remember why we're here. Why we chose this life. Each of us represents something good, something we've built from the ashes of our past. David wants to pull us back, but we won't let him." Jenny felt a swell of hope, the warmth of their unity igniting like a flame. "We've faced challenges before. We can face him again. Our bonds are stronger than his dark whispers." With newfound resolve, they formed a circle, holding hands under the dimming sky, grounding themselves in the present. Mark took a deep breath, his voice low and steady. "We will not let fear dictate our lives. We choose to rise above it." As they focused on their joined hands, glowing with determination, a sudden gust of wind whipped through, rustling the nearby leaves. It felt like David's shadows were trying to invade their sanctuary. As dark clouds began rolling in above, Jenny tightened her grip on Mark's hand, determined not to let this moment slip away. Then, out of nowhere, the first drops of rain fell, light at first but quickly turning into a deluge that drenched them all. The rain washed over Jenny, a cleansing flood against her fears, and she raised her face to the sky, eyes closed. "Let it come," she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "We'll face it together." With each bolt of lightning that illuminated the sky, Jenny felt a surge of energy course through the group. They stood strong, a living barrier against the storm that David had promised. Their laughter mixed with the rain, mirroring the thunder rumbling overhead. But just as she thought they might weather this storm, a piercing shriek pierced through the rain, a sound that sent a jolt of fear shooting through their ranks. They all turned as one, eyes wide, hearts pounding. Had David sent something more than just darkness? Did you hear that? Jake whispered, his voice tense and quivering. Yes, Mark replied, looking between the group. Something's coming. We need to prepare. This storm is just the start. A chilling realization settled on them. The worst might be yet to come. As they regrouped, readying themselves for whatever shadow might emerge, Jenny felt a potent mix of fear and defiance. What would this storm reveal? Was it merely the beginning of a fight against David, or would it unearth even deeper, more terrifying truths? The rain poured down in torrents, cascading like a curtain that separated them from the world outside. Together, they stood drenched, united by fear yet emboldened by their bonds. As lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating their determined faces, Jenny felt the weight of the moment shift. It was time to confront not just David, but everything he represented. On three, we face this together, Mark declared, his voice steady amidst the growing chaos. Together, the group echoed, holding hands tightly. 1, 2, 3. With all their strength, they stepped forward as a collective force, ready to face whatever lay outside the sanctuary of their chapel. The door swung open. Thunder roared, rumbling like a beast awakened. And there stood David, heartless and menacing, accompanied by a group of shadowy figures lurking at the edges, their faces obscured but their intentions clear. Look who decided to come out and play, David taunted, his voice dripping with malice. We're not playing, Mark shot back, stepping protectively in front of Jenny, every muscle in his body taut with resolve. Ah, but you are. You think the love you've built will protect you? You think unity will save the day? David smirked, stepping closer, shadows flickering around him like hungry wolves. It does save the day. Jenny pushed herself forward, shaking off her fear as best she could. We've fought hard for what we have. You think you can just waltz in and tear it apart? We're stronger than that. Her defiance sparked a moment of surprise among the shadows, but David only laughed. Unity? You've no idea how fragile that is. A little push, and it all crumbles. You think you're fighting for your future, but you're only echoing your past. With a sudden step, David raised his hand, and the shadows lurched forward, menacing and dark. A gasp escaped from the group, but they remained rooted, hearts pounding like war drums. Now is the moment to show them who we are. Mark shouted, his voice rising above the downpour. We will not let fear dictate our fate. With that, the group surged forward, Jenny right beside Mark. For the first time, adrenaline coursed through her veins, setting her heart ablaze. Each member of their small company played their part, rallying together in that stormy night. Remember what we've fought against. What we stand for. Sophie yelled as she launched herself towards the shadows, drawing strength from the connections around them. As if invigorated by their words, the others sprang into action, and in that moment, the chapel transformed into a battleground. The air crackled with energy, their unity becoming a shield against the encroaching darkness. They faced David and his ilk, pushing back with fervor and conviction. A storm of their own began to brew, swirling with the intensity of their collective will, their love acting as a shield against fear. The shadows writhed as if caught in a cyclone, disoriented by the light of their camaraderie. Get them! David yelled, fury cracking his voice, but the shadows faltered, weakened by the power of Jenny's resolve. We won to let you take what we've built. Mark bellowed, charging forward. It lit a spark in Jenny. She thought of every moment leading them here, the laughter, love, and courage that had ignited a bond resilient enough to withstand even the fiercest storm. In their boldness, they pushed deeper, fending off the shadowed figures that clawed at their unity. Jenny felt a wave of pure determination swell within her. They weren't just fighting against David, they were fighting for the love that had brought them together. With a final, resounding cry of together, they pressed forward like a solid wall, reinforcing each other until, at last, the shadows stumbled and fled. David's face twisted in disbelief, the power he held so tightly fraying at the edges. You'll pay for this. He shouted as he retreated, the shadows flickering and finally dissipating like smoke in the air. As the storm drew back, revealing a calm, clear sky above, relief washed over them like twilight breaking the dawn. They stood together, breathless but triumphant, the bonds formed and reforged greater than any shadow. Jenny looked around at her friends, their faces glowing with exhilaration, the spirit of victory lighting every corner of the chapel. They had fought not just against a past but for a future they owned, and in Mark's eyes, she saw the profound truth. They had emerged from the storm, united and unbroken. The chains of his past had been severed, and a new chapter awaited, a chapter they would write together, refusing to let either shade of darkness define them. "We did it," she whispered, tears of joy spilling over as she held on to Mark, the love that had brought them here now a beacon of hope leading them forward. "Together," he echoed, his smile radiant, illuminating promises of a bright future they would forge hand in hand. With a heart full of gratitude and determination, Jenny stepped boldly into the world awaiting them, a world where their love could flourish, unburdened from the shadows that once threatened to consume them. Now, she understood the truth: together, they could face anything. If this journey has moved you, let us embrace the next adventure ahead. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.